Welcome to the March 3rd Eclipse OpenJ9 community call. As always, when you join the call, we ask that you add your name and affiliation to the attendee list just so we have an idea of who's been attending. And then we'll pause as we start the agenda off to give people an opportunity to add anything to the agenda that isn't already there or to raise any community-based questions that they may have. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled this week, so I am looking for volunteers for that. If anybody would like to give a lightning talk, that would be good to get something scheduled in the next couple of weeks. I'd suggest another update on how JIT server is going, but I don't see Marius on the call. So that may be something to reach out to him about offline. And we'll take a look at the new user raised issues. We see that one came in about issues when building hotspot using OpenJ9. Looks like there's a bit of conversation happening there. It's probably okay. The rest of these would have come in from more than a week ago, so they would have been discussed during the last call. Is there anyone on this list that anybody thinks needs some attention or discussion today? The one I'd like to ask about myself is the class initialization sometimes does not get invoked when calling static methods.
Yeah, so I've started investigating that. It looks like it has to do, it's specific to lambdas, so it's specific to the way we're running the invoke dynamic when we're creating the method reference there. And what seems to happen is that we resolve the constant pool entry earlier than when Oracle would. And so that's causing the difference in behavior there. So I've not been able to narrow down the cause yet, but it certainly deals with how we're treating anon classes.
Okay, I see the use of sun reflect constant pool. Is that part of what's driving the behavior difference?
So in test case 1, it is not. In test case 2 and 3, I haven't investigated those yet. It may be, but I can't confirm that right now.
All right. Well, if you're on that, then I guess that's covered. So, do reach out to anyone if you need help or want to bounce ideas off somebody there. Are there any other issues in this list that people would like to have a discussion about? All right, then we'll jump back to the agenda. The usual reminder around help wanted issues. Find something minor or a good issue to get somebody started working on the OpenJ9 codebase. Please open that as a help wanted or beginner issue, and then leave it for a little bit to give somebody new to the project the opportunity to pick that up and use that as an entryway into further contributions. So let's take a look at the download stats from Adopt. Take a look. The OpenJ9 downloads. We see a nice uptick there. Downloads over the past few days. I did some poking around earlier, and it looks like JDK 11, not surprisingly, is driving a lot of those numbers. And then a bit coming out of 14 and 15. So not surprising, the LTS release is the primary driver there. And if we just take a look at the hotspot numbers as well, that on the other, we see a similar uptick for them as well over the past few days. So not sure what's driving it, but good to see that people are coming to get new builds. Any other questions around the download stats?
I have a comment about not the download stats, but the good first issue things. Just had a thought about it. Is there some kind of like global place where newcomers can go and look for good first issues across all GitHub? And should we like sign up for something like that, or does that exist, or does anybody know anything about that? Maybe beyond the scope of this meeting.
It's a good idea, Adam. I'm not aware of anything like that. That's not to say it doesn't exist. Does anyone else know? Or is anyone else aware of something like that?
Because I'm just thinking, like, even for the infrastructure stuff, if I had good first issues, they're probably going to be hard to find because nobody's going to come to OpenJ9 looking for infrastructure work to do. They're going to come for VM stuff or JIT stuff or whatever, right?
Possibly, or they will show up looking for, this is the tool they're using and they're interested in helping contribute. But it's definitely worth taking a look. We can. Would you be willing to take a look at GitHub and see if there's a sort of common place on GitHub?
Yeah, I can do some Googling and see if I find anything useful. Report back next week.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Okay, then we will move to our roadmap. We have the 0.26 release, which is the next quarterly update coming. And we have some tentative dates put in here. Pete, were these discussed during last week's call?
No, I put them in after last week's call. I did check them with you. If nobody else has any objections, then we'll stick with those dates. That does mean we are doing the code split this weekend.
So just to take a look at the current release plan, there are 72 open items, which very unlikely these will be closed out before this weekend. So I think it would be good to take another pass through this list and take a look at what items are not going to make this weekend and what things should be moved forward again or closed out if they're not going to be addressed, or take a hard look at how we are going to handle them. So can I ask the leads on different areas to please take a look at this list and run a grooming process over it to remove items that are not going to be closed out, or that the risk would be too high to do double delivery on.
So while Toby's on the call, I don't see Daryl, I don't see Marius.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the VM items.
Toby, do you mind sending a note to Marius and Daryl as well to take a look?
Sure.
All right. Is there anything else we should discuss around the 0.26 milestone? Then looking at the 0.25 release, just want to pull up that milestone plan as I was looking at it earlier today. And I think it's pretty impressive that we've closed out all the issues there. And in the course of this release, we've closed out 106 items that were tracked against the release plan. This doesn't include everything that's gone in between this and the previous release, just the things tracked against this release. So it's a pretty impressive accomplishment to get to the point where we are coming up on the 0.25 release. So I see final builds are being suggested for March 11th.
Yeah, because this is not a security fix release. The final build has already probably been posted from Adopt OpenJDK, which means we should be able to do our final builds anytime. We're just waiting to see if OpenJDK happens to put in a last minute change, but it's unlikely. So March 11th seems like it would give us Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, which is more than enough time to get the builds completed.
Sounds good to me. Does that work for the Adopt community?
So Simon, does that seem all right to you? Start final builds on the 11th, which is next Thursday. There probably wouldn't be any additional OpenJ9 changes. So the content that we have right now for Milestone 3 is probably what we're going to build. Just we'll change the tags to indicate it's the GA build.
Simon, you're on mute. So I know Pete had directed the question at you. I don't know if you're having issues with.
Sorry, I joined late, so I might have missed the question. What's the question? How's M3 going?
No, the question is we have to do final builds so that they're ready for March 16th. So I'm proposing we start them next Thursday, which is March 11th, which would probably be the same content where we've already built for M2 and M3. We just retag so it would indicate it's the GA level.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know of a reason we can't do that. So.
Seems like it's sufficient time, 4 days, to get the builds completed, triaged.
Well, the build should run and the test should all run. In the event that an issue is found that needs fixing, then quite possibly not. But that's more for you to say.
Right. Hopefully nothing surfaces that we haven't already seen, since I don't think the content's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if if Adopt has plans to do Hotspot on a certain date.
We were speaking of it, but as to the value in terms of who would fix what, even if something was found, was being debated. But yes, we could well be doing so.
Okay, so it sounds like we're good to proceed with targeting March 11th for those final builds, and that'll have us well in hand for GA on the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Probably what I'll do is we'll have our meeting next Wednesday, and that'll remind me to set all the final tags on Wednesday, and then you can start the builds after that whenever you like.
I'm just mulling over, won't those builds therefore actually be the GA builds, if all goes well?
Correct. We just don't want to advertise them until March 16th, which is the OpenJDK GA date.
Yeah.
Like the OpenJDK already has a release candidate builds, for example, and they're unlikely to change between now and the 16th.
So since the promotion is a follow-on job to actually get them on the Git releases, need to just make sure that they're not going to disappear from the Jenkins job from which they're promoted. Actually. Sure. follow that concern.
So, I mean, I'm not sure if it's my audio or if you were saying something there. I didn't catch that.
I was saying something. Can you hear me? Not
Yes, I
hear me?
can.
Okay, so I was, yes, since these would be the GA builds that would then require subsequent promotion, I need to make sure that since the promotion will be some days delayed from when they were built, that the builds are still attached to the Jenkins job from which they are promoted at that time. But I shall go away and do some checking.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, the reality is that the builds and tests could be done in advance, and then to do the GA, it could just build again without even testing. So it would be the same content, or maybe some kind of sniff test to make sure the builds can run. But even if something was found in a build on March 11th, highly unlikely to be fixed.
As I said, is this just making sure that the things are still there to promote. Whether or not to rebuild would depend on whether or not a new tag appeared on the JDK 16 line from on JDK, which I don't think we're expecting. But we shall aim for this plan, which is to build from the 11th and be ready to promote on the 16th.
Sounds good.
In terms of the CMake and mixed builds, clearly we're done the transition here. There was just one item that we were going to follow up on, and that was benchmark results and performance tests against JDK 11. Sharon, have you had a chance to follow up with the IBM performance team around that?
Yep. So last week, I think it was last week that I reported the XLNX 11 results, which generally showed no regressions, and they've since done some tests on 8, which they did see some regressions on, but there appears to be some machine-dependent test results as well as inconsistent confidence intervals. So they're doing some reruns for 8. So I'll be updating the call on that next week, I believe.
Okay.
There is a correction from last week, which would be hard to tell from the minutes. But last week we thought Win32 was working for CMake, but it actually was not. So that's still work in progress.
Right, and I see that the Docker builds will need changes. Has this progress been made on this?
I opened the issue, but I guess nothing will happen until the release occurs. I don't know if there's somebody specific we should be poking.
I would expect Dinakar would be the point of contact on that.
Or adopt.
Yeah, he's been the prime person behind the Docker builds at Adopt. Simon or others, correct me if I'm wrong there.
I have a colleague working with him as well. I can check tomorrow and make sure they're aligned and ready for the release next week after next.
I don't expect it's a lot of work. It's just removing the XL builds. So.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
Move on.
Sorry, just one question. Pete, did you raise an issue anywhere for that? That might be the best way of making sure it's not forgotten.
Yeah, there is the OpenJDK Docker issues 515. In terms of adopt, then, do we have the regular update?
I'm the only one here. I can give you my view of the world. So we've been, main thing we focused on was getting the milestones done for OpenJ9. Found this issue with a missing PR for AR 64. The builds are complete, but the tests are still running on for that. But I shall update the Slack channel when it's finished. Apart from that, we've all been chasing down the various machine infrastructure issues that are causing some tests to fail sometimes. So it's a bit of an arduous task to chase them down, but we are making progress. So it's things like not enough memory on one machine versus another, or some package not installed on a particular machine. When they're intermittent, they kind of appear to be intermittent from the nightly runs. They can be difficult to nail down, but we're working through them. Certainly on the milestone runs I just did, don't think I saw anything we haven't already seen before, or was an outstanding issue that's been outstanding for a release or two.
Okay.
I don't have a particular update on the Eclipse Temarin Adoptium front over and above what you heard last week.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. In terms of the infrastructure update, Adam?
Hey, sorry, just got distracted. So Joe's PR for Windows cleanup is ready to be merged. Oh, with those failures. We did have out of space issues on Jenkins master, so we've been working with Eclipse to clean that up. Still some more to do there, but we have enough to not fall over again. And the Artifactory space is also hitting around 97-98%. So we've been really unable to figure out exactly what has caused that, but I had sort of suspected it was the changing of the specs around. By default, we have a 35-day cleanup, so we wouldn't have hit the cleanup yet for removing all the Excel builds and the mixed, the ones actually called mixed in the spec name. So,
with the exception of all being incorrect, we shouldn't have been doing any concurrent builds. We were either doing mixed or we were doing the other types of builds, so it shouldn't have really increased our space.
Well, even if we weren't running them at the same time, we would have had like Excel builds one day and the next day had mixed builds. So those are just both going to be sitting on the server for 35 days.
Sure, but normally we would have just had regular builds, which would have consumed more space than the mixed builds. So even though we haven't seen the space go down because mixed builds take less space, our space requirement shouldn't have gone up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Although they would have gone up because of the PR builds all problem that we just fixed.
Yeah, so we were running, if anybody was launching with all platforms, we mapped that to a certain spec list, and that included both regular and Excel specs, so that will be fixed now. Anyway, so we're still going to some more work to do to clean up some stuff there. That's about it for issues as far as I'm aware.
Thanks, Adam. Babneet, is there an update on the method handles work?
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes.
Okay, so the main update is that previously we had set the release target to the 0.26 release, and based upon recent testing, we have seen a lot of failures. Many more internal test failures related to the certification tests have also been seen. And also in terms of performance, to be at par with existing OpenJ9 method handles, the JIT rules require more time. So the release target has been changed to the 0.26 release, which will be for JDK 17. And the work on addressing failures and still continues.
2.8 if we're targeting 17.
2.8 is JDK 17?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
2.6 is what we're doing in April.
And is there a 0.27?
Yeah, that would be July.
And it won't be JDK 17 then. Is it just going to be a refresh for JDK 16?
Correct.
I thought the next release was going to be JDK 17.
The next
So,
full release will be 17, but we'll do, well, the upcoming quarterly release, and then there's a second quarterly release before 17.
16. So we have a quarter release in April that does 8, 11, and 16. We have a quarter release in July that does 8, 11, and 16. And then we'll release JDK 17 in September. September? August? No.
September.
I'll ask Toby.
So
Just
what
to
we had
confirm.
said was 0.27, meaning the July quarterly release. Because then we should get an additional 2-3 months to get those changes in.
Yep, so my bad.
Yeah, so we'd be doing
I think that sums up the update.
we'd be doing a code split around the first week in June for that.
First week of June. Okay. That makes sense. So, yep, that's the update for back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Bevneet. In terms of CMake, mentioned that Win32 was still needs to be addressed. Is the ZOS support complete?
No. So the Windows side, there was a weird, it looks like a bug in Massam. It took me a while to try and figure out how to reproduce it, but now that I have it, I opened up or modified my PR, so there's the patch for that one. And on the ZOS side, I'm debugging some issues where when I run on a machine over SSH, I can compile it and everything works fine, but in the CI build, it seems to not work for some reason. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going on there and get some kind of diagnostic info out of that.
Okay. And then I'm assuming no progress on the cross-compiling support.
No, I haven't had a chance to dig into that more.
Okay. I don't see Marius on the call.
Actually,
yes,
I
do
am on
see
the call.
Marius.
Can you hear me? I usually have problems with audio.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm happy to report that the Helm chart PR has been merged, and thank you to everybody that made this happen, especially to you, Dan, for the thorough reviews. So what we have left now is just the blog post, which should appear soon as a draft.
So I noticed that the Helm chart is for the 0.24 release.
It targets that, yes, because that's correct.
So we should put an update into our 2.4 release notes to link to the Helm chart.
Yeah.
If somebody could draft that, or you could even do it yourself, just go into the release issue and edit it and put in the words.
Mm-hmm. So we'll update the release after the fact, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it would be worth talking to Sue about adding something to the user guide as well. We could update the 2.4 release notes in the user guide.
Yep, I'm on the call. If you want to get in touch, Marius,
Yeah, I
and
will.
put something in for you.
Good. Marius, where does that leave us with the operator?
We'll have to restart that effort and see who can take on it. So Chris was doing the job on the help chart, but Chris is a student. He works, as time permits. The operator thing I'm expecting to be a large piece of work. Chris is going to be graduating in April. I don't think he will continue to work on this, so we'll have to find someone to look at the operator, and we'll start it from there. I don't expect something that's going to be done easily or very soon. But we will start that discussion for sure. It's probably the intern that we have now, that Iman, that she's looking at deployments in OpenShift. Probably she's the most qualified to take on this item. And she worked closely with Chris previously on deployments on OpenShift, and even for the operator attempt that Chris had a while ago.
Okay. It's good to hear that there's plans to get that restarted. Marius, while you're on the call, just going to jump back up. I'm wondering if you'd be able to give a lightning talk on the JIT server status now and sort of an update on where things are at.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Do you have a date in mind?
Does next week work?
Okay, fine. Sure. Because I already had some presentations at MMT, so I could put together a few of the past presentations. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Marius. And then the other item on here is the reminder of the microJIT meetings. I've lost track of.
So we just had one last Thursday, and the next one is not tomorrow, but next week. So today's on 11th.
Is there any other business that we need to discuss today? All right, then. Thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again on March the 10th.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.